Hello and welcome to the first ever edition of Ball Caps and Bagpipes, a Scottish baseball podcast. I'm John McKellar of the Glasgow Comets.
And I'm Jason Durr, Baseball Scotland Hall of Famer.
Baseball Scotland Hall of Famer Jason and former president of the league, formerly the all-time home run record for a single season as well, is held by you. Am I correct?
Yes, I did own that at one point in time. I don't know if it still stands or not. I believe John Nelson might have crushed me.
I think he either tied or passed you by one. Was it last season or the year before? I think it was 2017. It was either a tie or he beat it by one, I think. Yeah. He had a lot of home runs that year.
He did hit a lot of home runs.
So let's quickly, to start with, give the listeners an overview of what this show is going to be. For kind of newcomers to the game in Scotland, we will kind of discuss from time to time the happenings in Major League Baseball, especially on a season like this when the Yankees are flying high. We'll primarily be trying to focus on growing the game here, though. We do have a Scottish National League which features 6 teams at the moment, potentially going to be joined by... No, we have 7 teams just now.
Teams. We have the new team this year from Aberdeen.
We have 7 teams, yeah, including the 2 in Aberdeen, 2 in Glasgow, and 3 in Edinburgh. I am not good at mathematics, so we'll be discussing that. We also have an 8th team potentially coming into the team into the league in 2020. We'll kind of talk about that as that unfolds gradually. We'll be doing a preview every week of what's coming up that weekend. Games are played on a Sunday in the Scottish National League for anyone who doesn't know. And we'll kind of review the happenings from the previous weekend. We'll also have interviews with players, past and present, and hopefully future in the league. Characters around the league, and also hopefully, all going well, some baseball people from across the pond and elsewhere. So we have a lot kind of planned. This is, of course, the first ever show. The rest of this season will be more or less a pilot run kind of thing. The season is more or less wrapping up. It's already kind of the Glasgow. Yeah, the Glasgow Galaxy, who are the Comets' sister team, already won their 3rd successive league title, and obviously big congratulations to the Galaxy. They've really flipped. They've kind of flipped the power balance of the league on its head the past few years, because I think, was it 8 years or something in a row the Edinburgh teams won?
I believe. I think it's at least 6. So I know it was the first year the Devils won. The second year it was the Glasgow Baseball Association.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 3rd year was, I think it was back to Edinburgh Devils once or twice, and then the Cannons for 3 years in a row, then the Devils for 3 years in a row, and now, of course, it's Glasgow's turn for 3 years in a row.
Yeah, we're waiting for Aberdeen to go on a tear next year and take it for the next 3, I suppose. They say good things come in 3s, Jason. But yeah, it's been an interesting period over the past few years of growth as well for the league. We've gone from 4 teams when I started back in 2013 to then 6, and now obviously the 7. As we've mentioned, there could be an 8th coming. There's been other parts of the country that have made rumblings as well about potentially fielding a team.
Yeah, I know at one point there was talk of something getting down to the borders down there. There's various places around that I've been interested in just trying to get the guys going. Obviously, with MLB being in London, that's spurred some enthusiasm there. I know at one point there was Inverness was looking at getting a team going. So, But I haven't heard anything more from them in quite some time.
Well, hopefully those kind of areas will start to spark again, and we'll get, because obviously the more teams and the more kind of areas of the country we're travelling to, the better the profile of the sport will become. Obviously, it is kind of a niche sport over here, what with football being kind of the number one. Obviously, listeners will have gathered by your accent that you're not a native Scot. Do you want to kind of, on the first episode, kind of give a kind of overview of how you came to, 1, be in Scotland, and 2, get involved with the sport here?
So I'll make a long story short. It was a 2-week holiday. I was taking a break from. I'm originally from the Seattle area, and it was just time to get away. And I was over here to go see some Chemical Brothers concert and explore the UK. So I was met up with a French girl. We did London, Manchester, Liverpool, Dublin, back to London again, down to Winchester for a festival. And it was just kind of a long weekend left, and I was trying to convince her to go to Paris. Figured, she could speak the language, it'd be great. And she's like, no, let's go to Edinburgh. I've always wanted to go. So I said, all right, you know what, let's go for the weekend, and then I'll take you back to France and spend a few more days before heading back to my lovely job stocking shelves in a grocery store. Because it was a .com boom had busted, and just fell in love with the place. Decided I was going to stay, just kind of figure it out from there. And about a month in, I was reading an article about a baseball team. So like, I figure let's drop them a line. Maybe I can help out some way. I don't know the standard of a ball, but the least what would happen is I can find out if I can help out. Turns out it was an amateur team. It was the Edinburgh Diamond Devils. It was just the single team then. And I was super excited. Like, I was playing baseball in Scotland. Made some great friends from it. I mean, my mom had to go to the store and actually buy me a glove and send it over here. I mean, I hadn't played even catch in 8 years. So, I mean, I was super excited that all of a sudden there was 15 guys I could relate to. Got taken under the wing from a guy from Idaho who, Scott really helped me out when I was first here, and had a blast. It's easy now with the games just in Scotland. I mean, we used to go down to, Manchester and Liverpool and Hull. So you're talking meet up at 6 o'clock in the morning, drive 5 hours, jump out of a car, warm up for 5 minutes, and then play a double header, and then go back home the same day. So you'd spend 10 hours on the road just to get your double headers in. So, the longest trip now is Aberdeen, which is 3 hours to get there, so.
Give or take 3 hours for us, yeah. I don't know what it would be from Edinburgh, but yeah, I think it's about 3 hours from Glasgow. That sounds like a nightmarish travel schedule back in the day.
I mean, you see, this is where me being American was like, okay, 5 hours, yeah, we can do this. And now that I've been here now, I'm like, oh my gosh, 5 hours. There's no way I'm going to sit in the car and do 10 hours just to play baseball. But it was great fun for me. It opened my eyes. Some of the best times was just sitting in the car, with 3 other guys and just getting to know the guys there, and finding about how their passion in the baseball came around. And I know it was great times to bond. I missed the road trips, looking back on it. But I mean, I don't know how we ever made it back from coming back from Liverpool after playing a doubleheader.
Yeah, I do understand what you mean about the kind of camaraderie building and the rapport building with your teammates. That's definitely my favourite part of road trips. I don't particularly enjoy the travel itself, but I think one thing that we guys on the Comets have is a great rapport with each other. I definitely think that builds more than at any time during road trips. We have some great laughs on the road.
I mean, we always had, various new guys that were like, okay, we're going to do this. We make sure they sat in the middle, and we gave them a hard time the whole time. Other times, it was, get one of those 18-seater vans and then, do that. I remember my last time up to Aberdeen, we had an 18-seater van, and we made sure we had a cooler full of beer for the trip back, so we didn't have to worry about anything.
I'm sure that all your respective spouses loved that.
It's only 3 hours. It's not like we're Wade Boggs and drinking 180 over a flight.
So after you kind of settled here, at that time, I believe the Devils would still be part of the BBF.
Yes, we were still part of the BBF. So we were in the Northern Conference. So I believe it was made up of Liverpool, Manchester, Hull, Menwith Hill, which is on an American Air Force base. So that's out in New York. And I think there was one more. It might have been Cartmel Valley. But I think that was the Northern Division at that time.
So tell us about the evolution of Scottish baseball from there to what we have now, which is a national Scottish league. How did that come about? Like the governing body, Baseball Scotland, obviously oversees baseball here. How did that transition happen?
So we kind of had a fallout with the BBF. We had come in second in the league, and then we were playing the Southern Division third winner, which was, oh gosh, who was that now? It was Brighton, and Brighton was supposed to fly up to play us, and obviously being the Edinburgh Festival, like accommodations were gone, and so they forfeited. And we said, okay, we were supposed to win and go on to the finals, but they said, no, if we need to play this game in Manchester. And we said, well, no, if we were the third place team, we would have found any way to go down there. So we kind of dug our heels in and kind of said, no, if this isn't happening, we'll forfeit. So we ended up forfeiting that, and that was kind of what stirred the pot of kind of growth in Edinburgh. We had probably enough for two teams at that time. At the same time, Glasgow had a youth team, and the guys were old enough to finally play as adults. I think most everyone was turning 14, 15, 16 at that time. So there was no competition for them to play. And at the same time, there was the Strathclyde Falcons who played in the BBF double A. And again, travel was too much for them. So we had all kind of got together and said, hey, you know what? It's probably time to get a Scottish league going. We'll start out as a 4-man league and see how it goes. And that was it. So we the following year, we just said, all right, adios. And started up our own league.
And that was in 2007 was the inaugural year, yeah?
2007, 2008. I want to say 2008, but don't quote me on that one. So I want to say it was 2008, because I want to say the Cannons won 2010, 11, and 12. So it was the Devils won the first year, and we went 15-1. We were still so upset. We lost the one game to Strathclyde in the pouring rain. It was like throwing bowling balls because I pitched, and it basically by the first inning, all 10 game balls were fucked, and it was you just lobbed it in there. It was going nowhere, and it was pouring rain. But it was good, just to see the development. I mean, we split the teams in Edinburgh pretty evenly. So back then it was the Edinburgh Eagles, and we thought we'd split them up pretty well. And yeah, the first season, it was a success by everybody. It was pretty evenly matched. There were some close games there. Obviously, the guys in Glasgow were a bit behind because when you're playing 25-year-old guys and you're 15, you're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage. But then the next year they turn around and won it. So
yeah. That would have been a team that would have featured my ex-coach Xander Harrison, Jason Stott, and obviously my current teammate Santino.
Santino's back.
Yeah, he's been around. I think he's planning on making it as much as he can.
Oh, great.
But he has other commitments and stuff at the moment. So we'll see how long he sticks around, and hopefully you'll get a chance to play again. But yeah, for the time being, moving on then with your kind of experience here, I'd like to know about your experience of playing at this level. What kind of level did you play to back in the States?
So I was probably your bog standard average high school player. I was a first baseman. I pitched. I played with a couple of guys who played college. I played a couple of guys that played in the minor leagues. One guy, John Leroy, played for the Braves. Pitched for the Braves in the one game before being drafted by Tampa Bay Devil Rays in the expansion draft. So there's a couple guys I had played with. Someone, if you talking old school, Todd Hollinsworth, the rookie of the year for the Dodgers. He was 3 years older than me, so I watched him. But I was probably your just standard guy there. I had wanted to go try to walk on at Oregon State, where I went to university at. Talked to a couple people about it, and they kind of gave me the lowdown of, well, you're in college, but you're basically spending 16 hours a day working out, playing baseball, going to classes, going to study hall, and that. And it really didn't appeal to me. So it's like, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy my university experience. And didn't play intramural softball or anything like that. It just kind of was like, all right, my baseball career is behind me. So fast forward, 8 years later, and I find myself in Scotland. I can play amateur baseball. I was thrilled. I was like, I'd forgotten what a passion I had for baseball. just how much fun it was, and just shooting the shit with people on the diamond and talking trash.
Did you find that the skill level in Scotland was better than you would have imagined? Was it maybe not quite at the standard you would imagine if there was such organisation? Or do you think it was kind of as you would have expected? Was there kind of an eclectic mix of different experience levels and skill levels? Or at the time that the league was formed, was it kind of a bunch of guys who were hardcore passionate about baseball? Because I know that now we have a very varying kind of mix of experience levels. Obviously, guys like yourself have kind of started to step back from the playing side of things. You were president of the league for a few years. You've now kind of retired from that post and are now firmly rooted in the Hall of Fame. So you have pretty much nothing left to prove here. We do have kind of a mix of, even in the team I play on, the Glasgow Comets. I play left field for the Glasgow Comets, and we have a mix of guys. Our oldest player is in his late 50s. He's also the coach. We also have very young players who are still learning the rules of the game, let alone how to play it. So, to answer the question, how impressed or unimpressed were you by the skill level in Scotland?
I didn't know what I was getting into. I had no idea. I mean, this would have been 2003 when I kind of just rocked up and was like, "Hi, I'm the new guy," and I was just didn't know what to expect. So obviously there was a few Americans who had done it, but there was quite a few Scots who'd been playing for quite a few years. There was one guy, Gary, who played first base that first year I was there. He was just a phenomenal athlete. He could just smash the ball. And so you have the guys who've been playing for years. There've been a team in Edinburgh since at least 1986, and I know you can go back to the 50s and talk, and there'll be teams there. So you had these guys that were pretty hardcore. They've been playing together for quite a few years, and they were at a pretty good level. I was actually really surprised in how well baseball they'd been, considering you train once a week and you play games on the weekends. So there wasn't a whole lot of things that I was used to back home, where you practice 3 or 4 times a week and you had games at least twice a week. But then you had guys who were like, you know what, I'm a night creature, and I was watching baseball on Channel 5 and I get into it, and
Yeah.
where do I go buy a glove? And so you had this great mix. But I think with the one team it worked out really well, because we probably had about a 60 to 70% Scottish, and the other 30% being mostly North American. We had an occasional somebody else come over from Europe, and it was good because the guys that were really experienced were able to go and get those guys up to speed quickly, and kind of sit with them on the game and explain how the game worked and answer any questions they have. So we found with the new guys, they got up to speed quite quickly, just because the opportunity was there to coach them. And we had some envoys that back then, and they were incredible. Like I learned more from these envoys from MLB in the 2 weeks they were here than I did from my coaches back home.
That's quite interesting. Yeah. So from there, you kind of led the. You were a Diamond Devil at first. When I came into the league, you were the kind of leading kind of player in the Cannons.
Yeah. So what happened is the third year. There's the second year, Strathclyde folded, and then Edinburgh Eagles kind of folded at the same time. It was just commitments had gotten in the way, but we still had enough people in Edinburgh to start a second team. So we thought, okay, well, we'll start the Cannons, and I'll go and get those guys started to help them out. So we can be all right as in a kind of expansion team. They'll have me pitching for them, and they'll be all right. So it went from going from the Devils to the Cannons, and the Devils were still pretty good. That they had a good core of people, and as they still do now. And I was just like, okay, well, here's an opportunity to create my own team, put my own stamp on it, and watch it go. So we thought we had divvied up the players pretty equally, and I think I got the better part of the deal, because I had Gabriel Rincones and Julian Santos on my team, and that made a big difference, because Gabriel played in the minors for the Mariners as a pitcher, and Julian played in the Mexican leagues as a center fielder. back when I was 18 or 19. So, I had this incredible outfield. So, like,
Wow.
it really covered up how crap a pitcher I was because anything hit out there, those guys caught.
It's quite crazy some of the level of skill players that we have seen come into the league, even however short a time that might be for. I remember the Comets. We had a guy Marco, who's just a great guy. He played kind of professional ball in Italy. Ditto Ricardo, who used to pitch a bit for the Galaxy. It's quite crazy sometimes how this tiny little country, has no business of ever knowing what baseball even is. Most people I talk to about baseball think it's rounders, and I just have to say no, it's not really rounders.
Yeah, except they get paid 40 million a year to play fancy round.
Yeah, it's rounders, but not as you know it.
But I mean, that was the great thing. I mean, we used to get guys that would, been in touch. I don't remember if you were around when the Devils had Ben Pope, and Ben had reached out to me because he was doing a year to do his master's at Edinburgh Uni, and he's kind of like, oh, I pitched for the Division 3 school, and I looked him up, and he was like third overall in ERA for that level of baseball, and I mean it was just incredible. Like he's like, oh, I'll play anywhere. Like just don't make me pitch all the time. Put me on the field. And he it was the same time that R.A. Dickey book came out, and he taught himself a knuckleball on the fly, and so he mixed in 85-mile-per-hour fastballs with his 70-mile knuckleball that he just learned, and it was incredible to see him pitch for the year he was here, and just an absolute cannon and arm. And as you go up against guys who are like, I've just come back from Boston, New York, Toronto, Orlando, and I've watched a game now, and you just go, good luck, buddy. Good luck.
Yeah. Like I say, there's a varying mix of kind of skill levels and experience levels in the league. I think that's one of the things that gives our league its charm. Certainly, baseball purists might not have the greatest day at any of our parks. They tend to be high-scoring affairs, to say the least. It'll generally either be a close game, but a high-scoring game, or a complete blowout, one way or the other, on any given Sunday. You do occasionally run into the odd classic, but it's an amateur league.
It is. I mean, you're always that problem. You're going to have the guys that are there every week in, week out, that put the effort in and get better. And you have the guys that just, they can only come down on Sundays and get a game in here and there.
Yeah.
I mean, the passion's definitely there. I mean, if you're a baseball fan in the UK, like, you've got to be passionate about it. You just can't be kind of casual because, your game started, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You're up till 3 or 4 if you're actually watching the game, at least Thursdays and Sundays, you get a game at 6 o'clock at night, and you can go to bed at a decent time.
God bless MLB TV.
Exactly. I mean, for a long time it was just Channel 5. It was to get bar workers that would play baseball, because they're like, well, I get home at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and the only thing is on is this crazy sport, baseball. But I have to unwind from work, and next thing I know, I'm a fan of all these teams there. Because one guy was like, "Oh, I'm a Tigers fan." He's like, "I'm like, why?" He's like, "Because they seem to be on MLB, or not MLB, but Channel 5 a lot." So it's like, "Oh, that's great," but yeah, there's been some characters over the years from the people that did that. Thank God for MLB TV, so we're gonna watch it at a decent time.
Yeah, or on demand whenever you feel like it.
But it was baseball, and you watched it. I mean, I'm watching. You're talking 2003. I remember watching Tampa Bay versus Kansas City, and both teams were horrible, but it was baseball on TV, and I was stoked. It was like great. Like, it's not the matchup I would have preferred to watch, but it was still baseball on. Twice a week you got a chance to watch baseball, and that was it.
Yeah. I became a Yankees fan in 2001. Literally, the first game I ever saw was Yankees-Mets at Yankee Stadium. It was the Sunday before the 2001 All-Star game.
Right.
And it was just baseball on 5. I had rented All-Star Baseball 2002 on PS2 from Global Video. I'm kind of betraying my age at this point, but and I thought, this game's wacky. I don't really understand it, but I'm fascinated by it. And it looks like a hell of a lot of fun. And then I knew that hockey was already on Channel 5 because I was already a hockey fan.
Right.
And then obviously I kind of became aware that baseball was also on 5. So I watched this. I tuned in for this first game and I fell in love with the sport by the end of that night. I still remember the pitching matchup.
Who was it?
It was Randy Kiesler for the Yankees versus Glendon Rush for the Mets. The Yankees won that game. I remember Jeter hit a home run to the porch in right field to tie the game after Todd Zeile had homered to straightaway centre.
That's a pretty good memory.
Yeah, I think it was 5-1. I think the final score was 5-1. Kiesler pitched just under 7 innings, which was crazy because I don't think I ever saw him again.
Could have been that one time.
Yeah, he won his major league debut at Fenway, which is just crazy. Like literally his only highlights I think in life were winning his big league debut as a Yankee at Fenway and then being on Channel 5 one night.
There you go.
It's just so crazy.
But I mean that's what it's like. You just kind of go, okay, that's it's the weird and the wonderful. I find that fans here are super hardcore and they keep expecting that their team to go 162-0, and I was like, baseball's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You're gonna take
definitely. Yeah, as we speak, the Yankees have lost 2 in a row to Oakland and 3 in a row going back to the previous series. That's not panic stations in baseball like it would be football to lose 3 weekends in a row.
Exactly.
And I think that's where a lot of fans over here sort of miss the boat a bit. It's not like football. It's not like rugby. It's not even like any other American sport or North American sport. It's very laid back. It's very pedestrian. It's like I say, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and that's kind of occurs in a macrocosmic fashion over the course of the season, and also in a microcosmic fashion over the course of the game. You could be down by 8 or 9 runs early, and still blow the team out by winning like 17-8. It's crazy. It's just a crazy game, and such weird things can happen from time to time. I think that's what really draws you to baseball is just the complete unpredictability. And from one moment to the next, the score can change quite remarkably.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because you're the better team doesn't mean you're going to win each night. Like, I mean, any given day, anyone can win. You just never know. So, that's why I find frustrating. It's like, oh, we're expected to win, and it's sometimes the fastball is just moving better than it normally does.
Yeah, I know that in Glasgow, I think the mentality of we're expected to win is definitely prevalent because to go back to football, which is kind of our national pastime, Glasgow Celtic and Glasgow Rangers are expected to win all the time. If they lose a game, if they draw a game, it's considered a failure. So I think it's kind of hard for people here to, like you say, know that that's not necessarily the case in baseball. I mean, it's a 162 game season in the regular season in Major League Baseball. We play around, I think it's 18 games now for the season.
It's 18 games now, so you guys are really cramming it in this season.
Yeah. As I think I've mentioned earlier, the Comets have 4 games left, and I think 3 weeks left to play them in. We have a double header this weekend, I believe. Let me check the schedule.
Hold on, I get the schedule in front of me here. So you guys have
Oilers at Comets, Aberdeen Oilers. Yeah, we have the Oilers at Tollcross Park this Sunday from 12 in a double header. I think the Galaxy also have a double header this weekend, but in Edinburgh.
They do in Edinburgh versus the Giants.
Yeah.
So at 12-3 at Bobby Thompson Field.
Yeah. Cannons and Express is also scheduled for a double header. So it's 3 doublers. So if you like baseball, get to one of these 3 parks and you'll have plenty of baseball to take in.
As Ernie Banks says, say, let's play 2 today. So it looks like everyone's playing 2. Now we just got to hope it holds
up. Talk to me about the Hall of Fame, Jason, because we haven't had a chance to discuss this. and I'm interested to get your real thoughts on this. You were inducted into the Hall of Fame. I believe you were the
2 years ago.
first inductee into the new Baseball Scotland Hall of Fame.
Yes, it was me and Gordon Dean, aka Wolfie.
Yeah. So you were the first player inductee then, I guess, would be the best way to put it. How did that come about? Who told you that was going to be happening, and how did that feel?
So it was a complete surprise. Like, I was not expecting it at all. It was our first awards dinner for Baseball Scotland, where we had gotten everyone from Glasgow to Aberdeen to come on down, and they did Gordon's first. And I was like, Gordon's now put in 50 years of his time in baseball in Scotland. And so I was like, that's really chuffed for Gordon. Like, Wolfie just loves the game, and he still goes to practices. He's 71 now, and he still shows up at practice for an hour, makes an hour and a half commute just to go to practice for an hour. And then when they announced it was me, I was super excited. Like, I had no idea it was coming. I was really honored that that the players had felt that I had was worthy to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I've done 15 years of baseball, from playing to coaching to managing to running the league. So just absolutely honored that I was one of the first to be able to go in there. So yeah, it's been tough to walk away. I really enjoyed it, but sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah, you have indeed hung up the cleats and glove, and also the president's pen. You kind of have stepped away from the game quite a bit the past couple of years.
Yes, so I had two daughters. So I have my oldest, Dahlia, is 5, and my youngest will be 3 in November, Daisy. And I tried to play for 2 years, and I just couldn't do it. Like, it's not like back home where you get 100 pitches. I mean, if you're a pitcher out in Scotland, you're throwing 200 plus every game, no problem.
Yeah, tell me about it. I think Albert, the Comets' kind of primary pitcher, Albert, has thrown, I think on average, about 170 to 190 pitches per start. Now, granted, we only play once a week, but that every week is going to wreak havoc.
I mean, it would take me at least 3 days to recover, Mike. Like, my body would just be sore. And trying to chase after Rugrats, it wasn't gonna happen. So, but I mean, even back in the day, I remember when I was first over here, I used to throw batting practice before the game, pitch my 9 innings because that's what you were limited to. And then I'd go catch in the second half of the doubleheader. So
yeah,
I had a lot more energy back then. You don't have that
now. Do you have a favourite baseball memory in Scotland?
Oh man, let me see. I mean, we got to travel a lot. I really enjoyed the traveling. Let me see. We played baseball in, say, Lithuania. We played in Belgium. We played in France. In Lithuania, we met the president of Lithuania, who happened to be there at the opening of the field.
Wow.
Yeah, they came over and said, "Hey, we need 2 guys to meet the president of Lithuania." I was like, "Sure, why not?" So we had a beer with him and tried to explain baseball to him. It was a lot of just hanging out with the guys. I've had a game where I've had a walk off. I've had a 3 home run game, which were great. There's been some great baseball all around there. It'd be hard to say which one was probably my favorite. Probably the walk-off home run. That's always fun to do.
I have a particularly sour memory of you. Unfortunately, my last at bat of back-to-back seasons, at one point, they were both strikeouts on high pitches from you to end the game. So I was quite pissed.
But it's like, it happens.
Yeah.
It's part of the charm at baseball. I mean, like I said, if you fail 7 times out of 10 at baseball, you're in the Hall of Fame. So,
yeah.
So you're a new player. I usually gave everyone a chance to get a hit off me and at least prove you can swing the bat. And then once the first time you've done it, then came the curveball and everything else that came with it. So.
Fortunately for me, because I never hit you well at all, I don't recall ever getting a hit from you. I think I reached base on an error once against you, and I want to say I probably faced you about 8 times. I think I struck out 3 times, and grounded out the rest of them, and reached on an error once. But fortunately for me, I played with you more times than I played against you as I can in the kind of early days of my my time as a baseball player.
I still remember you playing for us and singing in the right field, and then your teammates being pissed off, going, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I know, but that's what happens when you're a rookie. You need to try and get some innings in.
But then, I mean, like I've had times where I pitched for both teams just to finish the game out.
Yeah.
I think I've actually pitched for every team at one point in time. I can't remember how many times it's been like the seventh inning and someone's been hurt and like we don't have any more pitchers. Like, okay, I'm gonna go pitch for both teams.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly I think the league is becoming more and more organised. From that standpoint, there are kind of more restrictions starting to be put in, which is probably a good thing, I think, on balance. It incentivises every team to have a structure, which is definitely something we can use moving forward. As the league grows, you want it to have some structure. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave you alone from here. I don't want to pester you any further. We also want to keep some stories for future episodes of the podcast. So we'll wrap it up today. We've gone over the games that we have coming up this weekend. As I said previously, the season's more or less done. However, we have a post-season tournament called the Caledonia Cup that we will be able to cover in real time. This, for the listeners and anyone who doesn't know, this podcast has been a very arduous work in progress. It's been you had the idea at least a year ago. I know that it was at least a year ago you contacted me about doing it.
Yep.
So it's probably been in your mind for longer than that. But it's good to finally get the first episode out of the way. And obviously this podcast itself is still a work in progress. We'll be doing tweaks here and there. We'll work on the structure of how the show will come at the listeners. It can be heard on Anchor at anchor.fm/NH. That's my other podcast. Too many podcasts. At anchor.fm/Caps and Pipes. We can be found on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Caps and Pipes. I think this podcast will be distributed to all the kind of usual podcast platforms as well. Do you have any links that you want to plug?
So I run a kind of a history and a caps blog, hence ball caps and bagpipes. And so you can find me. I usually use my my Instagram account, but you can find me on Twitter as well. But it's Bubba on Baseball. I do a daily kind of interesting thing I found about something that's happened that day in baseball, and there's usually a picture of me wearing a cap, and I'll usually talk about the history, the hat that I'm wearing that day, and wherever in town I am, take the picture randomly. So,
as a little tease, on the day that we're recording, what was today's interesting fact?
So Brandon Webb had his 42 inning scoreless streak broken today, and so yeah, that was 2006, I want to say. So there was a few other things there, but that was one that was most interesting. There was actually what was it? There was something in like 1870, but I couldn't find a picture about it. And the guy hit it inside the home run because there was a stray dog in the field and it grabbed the right fielder's pant leg, and he was able to chase the ball. But I mean, there was no pictures in the 1870s, so I couldn't use that one. But yeah, there's always interesting facts like that. I try to keep it lighthearted and interesting stuff that you normally wouldn't know about baseball.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's the fun part about doing the research every day.
Yeah,
that's actually really cool. Like, who would have known like something like I think it was yesterday or maybe it was the day before, but then they had somebody had caught the highest drop ball off the Cleveland Municipal Building, which was like 700 feet. So it was like catching a 200-pound baseball by the time it hit the ground.
Jeez, oh.
Yeah, exactly. So there's stuff like that, and of course, I try to keep it somewhat modern to the UK and European audience because you mentioned, say, Brandon Webb, and they're like, "Who's that?" He's like, "Oh, he was a really good pitcher for the Diamondbacks in the early 2000s before he got hurt," and it's still over most people's heads.
Oh, I remember the early 2000s Diamondbacks pretty well. Not fondly, but well.
I can't imagine 2001. I can't imagine why.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the Webb pitch for the team in 2001.
I don't think he did then. I think that was still the Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling years.
Yeah,
He might have.
those two guys still give me nightmares.
I think they gave a lot of people nightmares.
Yeah. Not just people, but pigeons as well. There's also the famous exploding pigeon, Randy Johnson pitch.
Yes.
Apparently that really distressed him. He was very upset by it.
Well, so he's not the only one that's done that. So Dave Winfield did that for the Yankees in like 1981, and he was actually arrested by the Toronto police for animal endangerment. I covered it. It was one of my posts I did. So
Yeah, I mean, there is so much history in baseball to get through as we go. So we will try and sprinkle wee bits of history in, both Major League history and obviously Scottish baseball history is a lot richer than people might realise. I think you're working on a historian type to put together quite a nice package for us to run on the podcast. Is that right?
yeah, we have someone who's looking into various articles you can find on baseball throughout the years throughout Scotland. I know I have some stuff from 2003. I should go to the clubhouse and see. I know there's even some more stuff going even further back that was, had made the newspapers and whatnot. So yes, we'll definitely sprinkle in some Scottish baseball history.
Excellent. And obviously we have interviews coming up with players, past, present, future, coaches, other characters, and just general chit chat with people we know around the game here and elsewhere. We'll wrap up the show for today. Please, if you are listening, if you have any feedback, please get in touch. Let us know. We want to make the show as kind of enjoyable as possible. This is obviously the first one, so we'll be ironing out the creases for the next wee while. We're going to use the rest of this season as a pilot run to fix bits and pieces as we go. But it's been really fun starting off with your history in the game, Jason. You've told me some stuff I didn't know previously, so that's great. We'll reconvene next week for the second episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure I have some other stories that we can share. Some PG, some not.
Well, we're not going to keep it strictly PG here. We've kind of made the editorial decision to not necessarily filter it. We're not going to be effing and blinding non-stop, but it will kind of, as a content warning, it won't always be 100% family friendly.
Yes.
It's just, I think it's purer that way. It makes it more natural.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want people worrying about if they're going to swear or not. So
yeah, I mean, for anyone who's heard my other podcast, which I will plug now, the NHC Music Podcast, that's kind of, yeah. It's very much an uncensored show, so.
Cool. Well, like I said, it's been fun. We look forward to everyone listening to us. Do our best to keep you entertained and enjoy it. So.
Yep, and go Comets.
That's it. I'll say go Cannons. I'll say that's still my team. I got to still support them. So.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. You're wearing their cap in the Hall of Fame, so that's only natural.
Yeah, of course. I still got to have my soft spot for him.
All right, man. Let's call it a day. It's been great chatting, Jason, and I'll speak to you next week.
All right. Talk to you later, John. It's been fun.
You too, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.